There was once a Catholic priest. His name was Father Antonio Salvador. He was a man of Italian descent. He was born in Sicily, and he immigrated to the United States in the 1970s. He was a good man, a just man, an honest man. Everyone in the Catholic community of Orlando loved him. One thing that he did to reach out to the community was he volunteered to speak at conferences and seminars, particularly pastors' conventions, where pastors and clergymen from all denominations of the Christian church gathered together to speak about topics in regards to the Christian faith and how they can reach out to their communities and the world at large. Just about every single Christian preacher, every single Christian clergyman was there. Catholic priests, Orthodox priests, Protestant ministers, non-denominational pastors, even Messianic Jewish rabbis all attended these conferences. They were all anxious to meet Father Antonio Salvador, the Roman Catholic priest from Italy. They've heard such wonderful things about him, and he was such a fluent speaker, and they were anxious to meet him. And when they finally saw him face to face, they were taken aback as fear gripped their hearts. They couldn't believe what they were seeing as they covered their mouths. He was a Catholic priest with no skin. They were on the verge of leaving the room. It was like they were seeing a monster from Clive Barker's Hellraiser series. They were all on the verge of jumping up out of their seats and about ready to leave the room until Father Antonio Salvador opened his mouth and spoke. And when he spoke, it was like an angel was massaging their souls, setting their minds at ease as he whispered into their ears. They felt calm, they felt at ease. Even though they were looking at a monster, they were listening to the voice of an angel. He would tell them the story of how he became what he became, a priest with no skin. It was the result of an exorcism gone horribly wrong. He told the story about how he was called to a house somewhere out in Point Siena. A woman owned a house that was allegedly possessed by a demon. Father Antonio Salvador and his apprentice, a junior priest, went to the house to perform the rites of exorcism. And what happened was that there was a disturbance with the closet in the woman's bedroom. So many disturbing things that they are too horrible to repeat here. Father Antonio Salvador was performing the rites of exorcism, and as he was performing the rites, all of a sudden, the closet door burst open, and a bright yellow light shone forth from the closet, and this substance came out like a mist. It got on both Father Antonio Salvador and his junior apprentice. The mist irritated Father Antonio Salvador's skin so much that he felt the urge to scratch it until finally he was tearing off his own skin. He tore off all of his skin until there was nothing left but muscle. As for his junior apprentice, the mist got on a pimple that divided into 2 pimples and then multiplied into many pimples until finally the junior apprentice was covered in pimples. And even though it wasn't painful, it was irritating, so excruciating. He felt that the only thing that he could do was to grab a needle and stick himself. And when he did that, his whole body exploded. His whole body exploded, spewing blood and pus all over the place, even getting onto the woman and to the skinless Father Antonio Salvador. Later they discovered that the house was not really possessed, but actually it was a portal to hell. And towards the end, that portal was pulling the house back into its dimension. Father Antonio Salvador knew that he had to act fast. He grabbed the woman and got her out of the house before that portal could drag the house with them down into that dimension with them. The woman was safe, and so was Father Antonio Salvador. Of course, now he was a skinless man. The community had a hard time accepting him since he was a skinless man. But later on, they came to remember that he was a good man, and that regardless of what he looked like, they could not shun him away. Ever since that terrifying experience, Father Antonio Salvador goes from church to church, speaking to all pastors of all different denominations, those of the Roman Catholic tradition, those of the Eastern Orthodox tradition, those of the Protestant church, and non-denominational churches. He would speak to them all, warning them that when they're going to perform an exorcism, they need to do it the right way, because even one mistake could mean terrible consequences. Terrible, if not tragic. Even after this horrific ordeal, resulting in Father Antonio Salvador being skinless, he was still loved by the Catholic community of Orlando. They still accepted him as their priest and as their pastor. In a sense, he almost became like a pop culture icon, like Count Dracula, or Frankenstein's monster, or the Wolfman, or Freddy Krueger, or Jason Voorhees, or Michael Myers, or Chucky the Killer Doll.